Good day everyone, my name is Alondra Yumul and we are Group 11 and we are here to discuss about Telecommunications Industry Association or TIA standards. Here I want to present the objective first. General principles. The objective of this manual is to define clear and unambiguous guidelines to facilitate the preparation of a standard developed by Telecommunications Industry Association or TIA engineering formulating groups. Such standards include but are not limited to standards, specifications, bulletin, and engineering publications. Unless otherwise stated in this manual, the term standard is used generically to apply to standards listed. To achieve the objectives, such standards shall be as complete as necessary within the limits, specify its scope, be consistent, clear, and accurate, take full account of the state of the art, provide a framework for future technological development, and be comprehensible to a qualified persons who have not participated in its preparation. Next one is the style. The rules are intended to ensure that such standards prepared by the formulating groups are drafted in as uniform a manner as feasible regardless of the technical content. To facilitate understanding by all readers, the style shall be as simple and concise as possible. This is particularly important for standards that may be of interest to readers in other countries. It does not specify is not thus specified to go and lay out published standards which are determined by the committee. For the language and spelling references shall be made to the latest version of Merriam-Webster's New Collegiate Dictionary. The next one is homogeneity. Uniformity of structure, of style, and of terminology shall be maintained not only within each standard, but also within a series of associated standards. The structure of associated standards and the numbering of their clauses, insofar as possible, shall be in identical. Analogous wording shall be used to express analogous provisions. Identical wording shall be used to express identical provisions. The same term shall be used throughout each standards or series of standards to designate a given concept. The use of alternative terms or synonym for a concept already defined shall be avoided. Insofar as possible, only one meaning shall be attributed to each chosen term. Homogeneity. These requirements are particularly important not only to ensure comprehension of the standard or the series of associated standards, but also to derive the maximum benefit available through automated text processing techniques and computer-aided translation. Next one is consistency of standards. In order to achieve the aim of consistency within the complete assembly of TIA standards, the text of every standard shall follow the same basic style. First is general style guidelines. Heavy emphasis on technical integrity rather than on cosmetic look. Example, a spelling error would not usually damage the functional integrity of document, but a missing figure or inaccurate normative reference will have serious impact. Strive for consistency throughout document, consistency of formatting, presentation, capitalization, terms, etc. Strive for consistency throughout document, consistency of formatting, presentation, capitalization, terms, and etc. This one is no requirements in informative and some informative. Example, scope, terms, and definition, Text. No requirements in the forward, introduction, scope, terms and definition, informative annexes, notes, example, footnotes to text, notes to figures, notes to tables. Correct use of shall, should, and must. Example, correct form of requirements and recommendation. The correct verb from for indicating a requirement is shall. The correct verb from indicating a recommendation is should. Universally accepted standards does not recognize must use shall for indicating mandatory or an aspect of which there is no option. Full and complete normative references. Make sure all standards on which the document is contingent are fully and correctly listed with availability footnotes where necessary. Any document cited in the standard as being indispensable for the application of the standard needs to be listed in normative references. Informative references, those for information only or for use as background reading, are to be listed in bibliography, which comprise the final annex. Those example we'll discuss later. Completeness and consistency of document. Confirm that all pages, figures, and tables included and numbered correctly. Clauses, subclauses, footnotes number consistently. Excuse me. Cross-references to other documents and to other parts of standard cited correctly. Running heads, designation correct, year added not 200 times. Symbols and names of units shall not be mixed. Example, use kilometer or kilometers, consisting not a mix of both. Variable and quantities to be indicated in italics in accordance with widely accepted mathematical style. Well, next one is the implementation. The text of TIA standard shall be drawn as in such a way as to facilitate its direct application and its adoption without change as an international standard, and to enhance its understanding and use worldwide. Planning. In order to ensure the timely publication of a standard or a series of associated standards, a list of all aspects to be covered shall be defined before detailed drafting begins so that scopes, structures, and interrelationship can be established in the case of multi-part standard. A list of the intended parts together with their titles shall be defined. Users for the drafting and presentation of TIA standard shall be applied from the very beginning of the work and throughout all subsequent stages to avoid delay of any stage. Next one is framework, framework structure and contents. Under framework and structures and contents, there are general arrangement. The elements that together from a standard are classified in three groups. Mm, This group this group of elements are described in the following subclauses. An arrangement often used for standard which references to the appropriate subclauses in this manner is indicated in table 1. The order of arrangement provided in the order that shall be used. Later I will show you the table 1. First I will read this. The first one is preliminary elements are those elements that identify the standard, introduce its content, and explain its background, its development, and its relationship with other standards. And normative elements are those elements setting out the provision with which it is necessary to comply in order to able to claim conformity with the standards. Informative elements are those elements that provide additional informative intended to assist the understanding or use of the standard. This is the table 1 arrangement elements. A standard need not contain all the technical normative elements shown, and it may contain technical normative elements other than those shown. Both, both, both the nature excuse me, both the nature of the technical normative elements and their sequence are determined by the nature of the standards in questions. Next one is preliminary elements. There's types of preliminary elements, which is title page. The title page is prepared in a standard format by TIA. This page replaces the working standards cover page, the project number of the standard assigned by TIA upon approval of a project request. Next one is contents. Contents. The content shall appear in every standard. It enhances the overall view of the standard and facilitate its consultation. The table of contents shall be entitled Contents and shall list clauses and, if appropriate, subclauses with titles, annexes, together with their status and annexes. Figures and tables are shown at the option of the formulating group. All element listed shall be cited with their full titles, mm, with their full titles, terms in the terms and definition. Terms terms and definition clauses shall not be listed in the contents. Next one is introduction. The introduction is an optional preliminary element used to give specific information or commentary about the technical contents of the standard and about the reasons promoting its preparation. It shall not contain requirements. The introduction shall not be numbered. Next one is general normative elements. Under the general normative elements, there is title. Title shall be composed of separate elements, each as short as possible, proceeding from the general to the particular in general. Not more than the following three elements shall be used. A. An introductory element indicating the general field to which the standard belongs. This often can be based upon the title of the committee. Next one is a main element indicating the principal subject treated within the general field. The last one is a complementary element indicating the particular aspect of the principal subjects or giving details that distinguish the standard from other standards or other parts of the same standard. The title page shall contain the title of the standard. The wording of the title shall be established with the greatest care while being concise as possible. It shall indicate without ambiguity the subject matter of the standard is such as to distinguish it from other standards without going into unnecessary details. Any necessary additional particulars shall be given in the scope. The next one is the scope. In standards that are subdivided into parts, the scope of each part shall be defined the subject of that part of the standard only. The scope shall be succinct so that it can be used as a summary for bibliographic purpose. Scope is this element shall appear at the beginning of every standard to define without ambiguity the subject of the standard and the aspects covered thereby indicating the limits of applicability of the standard or particular parts of it. It is not shall contain requirements. Next one is normative references. This element shall give a list of normative standards to which reference is made in the text in such a way as to make them indispensable for the application of the standard. For dated references, only the edition cited applies. For undated references, the latest edition of the reference document, including any amendments, applies when an undated references to all parts of a standard. The publication number shall be followed by the indication, all parts, and the general title of the series of parts. Example, the introductory and main element. The list of normative reference shall be introduced by the following wording. The following documents are referred to it in the text in such way that some or all that their content constitutes requirements of this document. For dated references, only the edition cited applies. For undated references, the latest the latest edition of the reference document, including any recommendation, applies. So in the normative references, this is also applicable to a part of multi-part multi-part standards. This list shall be introduced by the following wording. The following standard contains provisions that through references in the text constitute provision of these standards at the time of publication. The edition indicated where valid. All standards are subject to revision, and the parties to agreements based on these standards are encouraged to investigate the possibility of applying the most recent edition of the standards published by them. This wording is excuse me. The list shall not include the following. First, there's three of them. The first is standards that are not publicly available, standards to which only informative reference is made, standards that have merely served as references in the preparation of the standard. Standards shall be listed alphanumerically by standards number and title, with American National Standard listed first. Designation numbers of standard listed in the normative references. Title of reference standard shall be set in italics and use the title case. Capital letters shall be used for principal words, articles, conjunctions, and prepositions. Do not get capital letters unless they start the title. Publication and books listed as references shall retain their original capitalization. Future revision shall not be references. This is the way how to write references or how to get references. References shall be listed in the style and order indicated below. American National Standard lists numerically by designation, including the full title and year of publication. Example number 1. ANSI or TIA. Telecommunication Infrastructure Standard for Educational Facilities. ANSA is included in the title when it's referred to as a reference. However, it should not be used in the header of the ballot or final standard for publication. Other standards list the designation, full title, and year of publication. The name and address of the organization is using the standard shall be provided in bibliography index. Example number 2. IEC or and ISO. Directives Part 2 Rules for the Structure and Drafting International Standards 2011. Books list in order, the last name of author followed by first and middle names or initials, title, city of publication, name of publisher, year of publication, number of page. The number of page was optional. Example number 3. DOE John E. How to write any city Conduct Press 2014, 85 pages. Article in journal lists in order the last name of author, followed by the first name and the middle name or initial title of article. In upright type, title of journal in full in italics. Volume number, issue number, first and last pages of article and date of publication. Sample number 2 was Swanson R.H. Emerging Technologies for Network Management, Business Communication. Review 21/8 to 53 to 58 August 24. Next one is technical normative elements. There's in technical normative elements, under of that, there's a terms and definition. This is an optional element giving definition necessary for the understanding of certain terms used in the standard. The definitions shall be introduced by the following wording. For the for the purposes of these standards, the following definition apply. In the case where terms defined in a one or more other standards also apply, for example, in the case of a series association standards where Part 1 specified the terms and definition of several or all the parts. The following introductory wording shall be used altered as necessary. There's another wording. For the purposes of the standard, the terms and definition given in the following apply. Next one is symbol and abbreviation. In symbol and abbreviations, this is an optional element giving a list of symbol and abbreviation necessary for the understanding of the standard, unless there is need to list symbols in a specific order to reflect technical criteria. All symbols should be listed alphabetical order in the following sequence, like use uppercase Arabic letter followed by lowercase Arabic letter. Example is A, big uppercase A, lowercase a, uppercase B, and lowercase b, and etc. Letters without indices, preceding letters with the indice, and with letters indice preceding numerical ones. Example is uppercase B, lowercase b, uppercase C, and lowercase m, uppercase C, 2, and lowercase d, the text, and D, and D1, and etc. Pick letters following Arabic letters. Example is uppercase A, lowercase a, uppercase A, lowercase a, uppercase b, and so forth. Any other special symbols. In this, we have our requirements. The elements shall include the following: all characteristic relevant to the aspects of the products, processes, or services covered by the standard, either explicitly or by reference. Next one is the required limiting value of quantifiable characters, and for each requirement, either reference to the test method for determining or verifying the values of the characteristic. Sheet of the test method itself. Later I will discuss it. First, the requirements is need to be a clear distinction shall be made between normative requirements and statements, and recommendation included only for information or guidance. Those references will be later. You will see in the Annex C. Contractual requirements concerning claims, covering of expenses, etc. shall not be included. In some standard, it may be necessary to specify that the product shall be accompanied by waiving notice or by instruction to the user or installer, and to specify their nature. Specific requirements concerning use or installation as such shall be included on separate standards since they are not requirements applicable to the product itself. Standard distinct characteristics for each supplier are required to state values that are not specified by the standard itself shall specify how the values are to be measured and standard. Those requirements are need to be followed based on TIA or Telecommunication Industry Association. Next one is test methods. These elements give all the instruction concerning the procedure for determining the values of characteristics or for checking compliance with stated requirements, and for ensuring that the results can be reproduced where appropriate. Tests shall be identified to indicate whether they are types tests, routine tests, sampling tests, and so on. In addition, the standard shall specify the sequence of testing in the sequence can be influenced the results. The test methods may be presented as separate clauses, be incorporated in element, or be presented annex or separate parts. See it in later in chapter 3. And test method shall be established as a separate standard if it is likely to be referred to in a number of the standards. Requirements, sampling, and test methods are interrelated elements of product standard decision and shall be considered together even though the different elements may appear in separate clauses in a standard on, or in separate standard. When drafting test methods, account shall be taken of standards for general tests, methods, and related tests for similar characteristics in other standards. Next one is non-destructive test methods shall be chosen wherever they can replace within the same level or of confidence destructive test methods. Test methods standards specify test methods involving the use of hazardous products, apparatus, or process shall include a general warning and appropriate specific warnings. For the recommended wording, you can see it in chapter 4. My group we will discuss it. A standard which specified test method shall not imply any obligation to carry out any kind of test. It shall merely state the method by which the assessment, if required, are referred to. For example, in the same or another standard, in a regulation or in contracts, is to be carried out. Telecommunication Industry Association or TIA Standards Style Manual 2009. If statistical method for the assessment of the conformity of a product, process, or service is specified in the standard, any statement of compliance with the standard only relate to the conformity of the population or the lot. If it's specified in the standard that every single terms is to be tested in according to conformity of the product, the standard mean that every single item has been tested, and that each of the fulfilled standard mean that every single item has been tested and that each of with the corresponding requirements. Those are the indicate in the test methods that we can use. And next one um, is under test methods. It's instructions relating to the test methods by maybe subdivided in the following order where appropriate. First one is principle, reagents, material, or both, apparatus, preparation and preservation of the test samples and test pieces. Procedure. This is what I told earlier that we will my group mate will show this later in the chapter 4. Expression of result including method of calculation and precision of the test method and test report. And the next one is classification, coding, and designation. This optional element may establish a system of classification, designation, coding of products, processes, services, or a combination thereof that conforms to stated requirements. For convenience, this element may be combined with element requirements. It is left to the relevant formulating group to decide whether requirements concerning designation are to be included in a given standard. If they are included, the requirements shall conform to requirements. This element may be supplemented by an informative annex given an example of the ordering information. Those example of these, you will see it in the annex. Marking, labeling, and packaging. Marking, labeling, and packaging are complementary aspects that shall be included wherever relevant, particularly for products standard concerning consumer goods. This element may specify the marketing of product. Example, manufacturers or vendors, trademark, model, or a type number. It may include requirements for the labeling and packaging of the product. Example, handling instructions, hazard warnings, date of manufacturers. As a appropriate symbol specified for making shall be conformity with the relevant national standards. Um, Normative annexes. Normative annexes are integral parts of the standard that are necessary to comply in order to able to claim conformity with the standard for reason of convenience. Normative annexes are placed after all other normative elements. Supplementary elements. In supplementary elements, there's an informative annexes. Informative annexes may contain optional requirements. For example, a test method that is optional may contain requirements, but there is no need to comply with these requirements to claim compliance with the standards. Next one is footnotes. Footnotes give additional information, but their use shall be kept to a minimum. They shall not contain requirements. Footnotes shall be replaced at the foot of the relevant page and be separated from the text by a short, thin horizontal line on the left of the page. Next one is alternative icons. Excuse me. Notes and example integrated into the text of a standard shall be used only for giving additional information that's essential to the understanding of the standard. They shall not contain requirements or any information considered indispensable for the use of the standard not covered over elsewhere. Notes. Normally should be placed after the clauses, subclauses, or paragraph to which they refer. All lines of a note shall be insert from the left margin of the main text so that the extent of the note and the text to which it applies can be correctly understood. If isolated notes occur the separate places within the same numbers of subdivision of text, they may be designated note 1 or and note 2, etc. Alternative, all notes integrated into the text may be numbered in a continuous sequence throughout the standards. Example 1. Note 1. The scalability of a single switch can be elevated to some extent by connecting several switches into the large virtual switch. The I will discuss what is division and subdivisions. This is the introduction of the chapter 3, and after I will discuss this, my groupmate will discuss the others. First, we know the general about the division and subdivision. Standards are so diverse as regard both the nature of their content and their length that non-universally applicable rules can be established for splitting them up into the division and subdivision. However, such splitting up is necessary to ensure that the standards is logically structured and therefore easy to understand, refer to, and apply. So that will be all my report, and the next reporter will be Mr. Pedernal to discuss about division and subdivisions. Thank you.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to report about the division and subdivision continuation. Uh, uh, 3.1 general standards are so diverse as regarding both the nature of the content and their length that no universally applicable that can be established for splitting them up into the division and subdivision. However, such splitting is unnecessary to ensure the standard is logically structured and therefore easy to understand, refer to, and apply. So there is 3.2 names of division and subdivision. The term shown in the table shall be used to designate the division and subdivision in a standard. The period is merely separator and is not decimal. For an example of numbering, um, see Annex, informative. In 3.3, description of subdivision and subdivision. 3.3.1, Part A part is one of the series standards published separately under the same standard number. See Engineering Committee Operating Procedure for the numbering system. So, both these, the title of the part shall be composed in the same way as, as that of normal standard. All individual titles in the series of parts shall contain the same introductory and main elements, while complementary elements shall be different in each case in order to distinguish the parts from one another. So, if the standard is published in the form of number of separate parts, the first part shall include in its foreword an explanation of intended structure. The foreword of each part belonging the series reference shall be made to the titles of the other parts that have been or are to be published. This division is only used for a very large standards where each of the division of the standard is published separately. Each part would contain its own preliminary information as defined in tables 2.2, names of division and subdivision. The term used is clause. So the example of numbering is 1. So the subclause is 1.1, example of numbering, and subclause also 1.1.1, and so on. So in section 3.3.2, for practical reason, it may be desirable to subdivide a lengthy standard or lengthy part of one into section. In such a case, sections shall be numbered with Arabic beginning with the numbers clause within the section shall include the first numeral, the number of section. Clauses in section 2 will be numbered 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, etc. If the standard is very large and the section is published separately, each section should have its own table of contents. So in section 3.3.3, A clause is a basic component in the subdivision of a content of a standard. The clauses in each standard or part shall be numbered with Arabic numerals beginning with 1 for scope clause. The numbering shall continues up but excluding any annexes. See in 3.3.6. Each clause shall have the title in uppercase letter placed immediately after its number on the line separate from the text that follows. In section 3.3 subclause, a subclause is a numbered subdivision of clause. A primary subclause may be further subdivided into secondary subclauses. This part of further subdivision may be continued as far as the fifth level. A subclause shall not be created unless there is at least one of further subclause at the same level. For example, text in clause 1 shall not designated subclause 1.1 unless there is a subclause 1.2. And 3.3.5, paragraph. A paragraph is a numbered subdivision of clause or subclause hanging paragraphs. For example, is a paragraph where all lines than the first are intended shall be avoided. So in 3.3.6, annex for the description of two types of annexes, see in 2.48 and 2.5.1. The word annex shall be followed by the letter designated in serial order and by the word normative or informative in parentheses followed by title. The annex numbers, given clauses subclause of any annex shall be preceded by letters assigned to the annex. So in 3.4, layout of subdivision and subdivision in drafts of a standard at all stages of preparation, numbers and text subdivision shall be aligned on the left-hand margin of the page. However, as an aid to composition of the printed text, list in C in 4.1.3 and notes integrated into the text C in 2.5.3 shall be inset from the margin. For an example, C in Annex E. So it is informative. So for editorial details, 4.1, text the standard, 4.1.5, word of scope clause. The meaning of this element shall be word as a serious statement of fact forms and expressions as follows shall be used. So this standard specifies the dimension of, a method of, the characteristic of, and establishes a system of, general principle for, it gives guidance on, defines terms. Statement of applicability of the standard shall be introduced by the following words this standard is applicable to. So in 4.1.2, verbal form for expression of requirement standard does not itself be imposed for an example by legislation or by the contract. In order to be able to claim compliance with the standard, the user needs to be able to identify the requirements he or she is obliged to satisfy. The user also needs to be able to distinguish this requirement from the other provision where the user has a certain freedom of choice. In 4.1.3, lists may be introduced either by the complete grammatical proportion followed by a colon, see in example 1, or by the first part of the proposition without a colon, see in example 2, completed by the items in the list. So for example 1, no switch is required for any of the following categories of apparatus. So apparatus having a power consumption not exceeding in 10 watt under normal. So next is operating conditions. The next is standard apparatus having a power consumption not exceeding in 50 watt measured to and after the application of any of the fault. Condition apparatus intended for continuous operation. So in example 2, vibration in apparatus may be caused by unbalance in the rotating elements, slight deformation in the frame, the rolling bearings, aerodynamic loads. Next is 4.1.1. Spelling and abbreviation of names or organization. The spelling of the names of organization and the abbreviation shall be used by any of those organizations to facilitate understanding by readers, and style shall be simple and concise as possible. So abbreviated terms shall be used with care, and there shall be limited of those cases where it's not likely to cause confusion. So in 4.1.5, use of trades names, a correct designated or description of a product shall be given rather than the trade name. Proprietary trade names or particular product should be, insofar as possible, be avoided, even they are in common use. If exceptional trade names can be avoided, their nature shall be indicated by the symbol TM for trademark, for a registered trademark, for copyright, and SM for service mark. An appropriate explanation shall be given as the following example. In example 1, instead of Teflon, write polytrefluorethylene, so or PTFE. In 4.1.6, the effective dates shall be not be part of standard approved by an ANSI. However, some application may be required establishment of effective dates for provision of standards, such as dates may be included only when considered necessary by formulating group, and only it's clearly shown but that they are not part of standard. Effective dates may appear on cover and forward as footnotes or in parentheses following a provision to such as dates applies. When an effective date appears in proportion of a ANSI accredited standard, the following statement shall be included. The effective date is established by TIA and not by the American National Standard Institute. So in 4.1.7, special word usage used by in 4.1.7.1, and or the terms and or shall be avoided wherever possible. A statement shall be written to clarify meaning. For example, compatibility advantages, performance advantages, or both not compatibility or performance advantages. So in example 2, not screw, bolts, or combination, therefore not nuts, screw, and or bolts. So in 4.1.7.2, that and which, that is defining or restrictive pronoun, which is a non-defining or non-restrictive pronoun. For example 1, the lawnmower that is in the garage is broken. So an example 2, the lawnmower which is broken is in the garage. It adds the fact about the only mower in question. So in 4.1.7.3, EG and IE, the abbreviation EG means for example, and the abbreviation IE means that is. This term is usually used in parentheses as part of sentence to provide additional clarity and more general statement. In the sentence, when providing a complete list of terms, that is shall be used when providing partial list of an items in terms. Example shall be used abbreviation in criteria and etc. Shall not be used in either of these terms. IE provides the complete list of e.g. By definition of incomplete list, both abbreviations should be followed by a comma when used in text. For example, there are many types of trees in this area. So, oak, pine, and maple, an incomplete list. For example, 2, an abbreviation for it, etc. shall not be used with either of these terms. So in 4.2, tables, in 4.2.1, usage table should be used whether appropriate, present, informative in an easily comprehensible form. Each table shall be referred to explicitly in text so that its significance in relation to provision of the standards is made clear. In 4.2.2, heading, the first word in a heading column shall begin a capital letter. The unit shall be given a column, shall be indicated on the bottom of the column heading. For example, type, linear density, kilogram per meter, inside diameter, millimeter, outside diameter, millimeter. So in 4.3.3, continuation of tables. When a table is continued over 2 or more pages, repeat the number of tables followed by appropriate word as in the following example. So in table 1, continued in intermediate pages. Table 1, concluded on final pages. The column heading shall be repeated in every page after first. So in 4.3, figures. Um, Usage figures should be used whenever appropriate to present information is an easily comprehensible form. Each figure shall be referred explicitly in the text so that the insignificant relation to the provision of the standard is made clear. In 4.3.2, forms figures shall be in the form in line drawings, photographs may be used. However, photocopies are not usable in spreadable supply computer-generated artwork is accordance with the requirements provision of a graphics of TIA. See in 4.12.1.3 graphics. So in 4.3.3, numbering figures shall be numbered with Arabic numerals beginning with in the order which the first mentioned in the text. This is numbering shall be continuous and independent numbering of the clauses and in the tables. A single figure shall be designated in figure 1. So in 4.3.5, choice of the symbols used in figures represent a general case of angular or linear quantity shall be accordance with an ANSI or IEE 260 and ANSI X3.50 subscripts may be used per necessary and different between different application of a given symbol. In 4.3.6, style of lettering inclined italic letters shall be used for symbol for quantities, subscript representing symbols for quantities, letter symbols representing numbers, vertically upright shall be used for any other lettering. 4.3.7 units, the units used any values are expressed shall be indicated. 4.4.3 represent possible references particular piece of text shall be used instead of repetition of an original source materials because such repetition involves in the risk of error or inconsistency and increase of the length of the standard. If it's not possible to avoid repetition of such materials, its source shall be identified precisely. So in 4.4.1 reference to the standard as a whole. In its own text generally, the form these standards should be used except in the introductory text for the normative reference in the terms definition clause in any patient notice. However, to avoid possible confusion in the case where the standard is published in separate parts and the following parts may be used. This part of ANSI TIA reference to that's all. And 4.4.2 reference to elements of text elements shall be referred in forms such as the following. In accordance with clause 3, according to 3.1, details as given in 3.1.2, see Annex P is a necessary term to use in terms subclause. So in 4.4.3, reference to tables and figures, tables and figures shall be cited in the text in form of table X and figure X. C, it is in 4.11.1, tables and figures shall be referred in forms of the following, given in table 2, C in table 2, shown in figure 3, See figure 3, the figure shall always be referred in a proper numeric order. However, figures also may be referenced in the text of numerical sequence when context requires it. So in 4.4.4, reference and other standards, through which reference is made in the text of standard shall be indicated by the reference number only since full details, title, and date given is a normative reference clause. To see it is in 2.3.3. For example, one is ANSTIA 9999. So in 4.5, mathematical style in 4.5.1 equation shall be expressed in mathematically correct form in various quantities being represented by letter symbol and meaning of which explained below equation unless they appear in a symbol and abbreviation clause. To see it, it is in 2.4.2 descriptive terms name of quantity shall be arranged in the form of equation by the following style shall be used. So in RL, 20 log ZTT as ZREF, ZTN minus ZREF is dB, where RL is return loss of two-wire interface, ZTT is impedance of two-wire tie trunk. So ZREF is a reference impedance composed of 600 resistance in series with 2.5 F capacitance. Note, name of these units spelled out is full when they are not preceded by numerical value. So in 4.6.1, symbols for quantities shall be chosen whether possible from ANSI, i.e. 280 standard letter symbol for quantities used in electrical science and electrical engineering, or appropriate ANSI standard mathematically signed and symbol shall be accordance with IEE, American National Standard mathematically signed in a symbol for use in physical science and technology. So in 4.6.2, subscription is so far possible, symbols having this subscript, which themselves bear subscript, should be avoided. In 4.7, representation of numeral values. In 4.7.1, units of measure time and quantity, Arabic number shall be used with all units of measure time and quantity. So in 4.7.2, decimal point and the decimal sign shall be period and the line. Values less than other one if values less than 1 is written in decimal form, the decimal point shall be preceded by 0. For example, 0.001. In 4.7.4, multiple digit number, each group of 3 digits reading the left or to the right, the decimal sign shall be separated by space from preceding digits or following digits, respectively. In digits number 4, digits on other side of decimal point, space usually is not necessary except for uniformity in tables. For example, 2.343456. Next is 2345, 2.34567, 73722, 7372. So 4.75, multiplication sign. The multiplication sign, or rather we use X rather than point, shall be used to indicate multiplication numerical value. 4.7.6, number items like express number of items as opposed to numerical values of physical quantities. The numerical 1 up to the 9 shall be spelled out fully except or contrast with a paragraph. For example, carry out the test of 5 tubes, each 5 meter long. So example 2, select further 15 tubes for the pressure test. So in 4.8, quantities of unit symbol in International System Units, or SI, as specified in ANSI IEE, shall be used in TIA standards equivalent US customary units. Round in the intended version will be added the parentheses following SI unit value 6.4, 6.4 meter or 21 feet. If metric equivalents are not used in relation shall be explained in the forward or introduction. 4.8.1, combination of units. Many units have been derived from 7 basic SI units, from forming combination of symbol when units combination to express quotients, such as any quantity per unit of time, weight, area, degree, temperature, or distance. Symbol shall be separated by a forward slash with no space. For example, kilobits per second. So it will be kb/second. So in 4.8.2, numeric value and unit symbol, when quantity expresses numerical value and unit symbol, a space shall be between them. For example, 33 mm or millimeter. So not 33 beside 33, not together. Exception, no space is left between the numerical value and symbol for degree, minute, and second of a plane angle. For example, 90 is angle. And 4.8.3, numerical value is a unit of quantity expressed as numerical value, and unit used as an adjective. A hyphen should be used in lieu of space between the number of unit. Example 1, a 3-meter pole. Example 2, a 33 centimeter rule. In 4.8.4, a degree temperature. To express number of degrees temperature, a space shall be left between numerical value and the symbol of temperature. Scale symbol for degree and simple temperature scale not be separated by a space. For example, 21 degrees Celsius, not 20 degrees Celsius. Again, like that. So the last one is a 4-point abbreviation shall be used with care, and their use shall be limited of those cases where cannot give rise to confusion. Generally, abbreviation should run to NSI, ASME, Y1.1 abbreviation Use drawing and text to the list of abbreviation is not given a standard. To see it is in 2.4.2, then the first time that is an abbreviation is used, full term shall be given with abbreviation following parentheses. So that's all my report. Thank you.
Capitalization and punctuation. Next is capitalization. The first letter of the first word, relevant title, should be the capitalized. All other common words should be expressed in the lowercase and letter. Generally accepted capitalization rules should be applied to text. Proper names should be expressed in upper and lowercase letter. In the text, the word standard should be capitalized. When referring to the specific standard, and should be written in lowercase. When referring to standard is general. The terms clause, table, annex, and figure should be capitalized into reference. Yung capitalization po ay isang standard na salita na tumutukoy sa specific na standard at sinusulat sa maliit na letra o titik. Ah, at yung mga clause, table, annex, and figures, dapat po nakasulat po siya sa capitalize para po bilang reference. Next is punctuation. Punctuation generation is in common keeping with the accounted present style books. Next is submission format. Standard should be follow the general style of this manual and should be submitted to TEA in a final form ready for printing whenever possible. Next is submission media. Standard proposal should be submitted to the TEA using the TEA website and should be included an editable electronics na PNP4. Ito po sa submission media, ito po yung pagpapasahan po ng TEA. Gagawan po ng electronic copy o kaya PDF files. Next is acceptable word processing program. The preferred files format ay Microsoft Word. Ito po yung ina-accept po ng TEA, yung naka-Microsoft Word pero naka-latest version. Next is graphics. Correctly prepared table, figures, drawing, sketch, graph, etc. Should be incorporated into the text standard and submitted in the application ready format. Yung sa graphics po, kailangan po ay meron pong correctly na tables, figures, o kaya drawing po ng mga sketch, graph, mga ganun po. Tapos, incorporate po sa text standard para po isubmit sa publication ready format po. Next is printing. Traditionally, technique for applying under pressure, certain quality of coloring, edges on specific surface ito on a body text demonstration. Next is paper size. A full standard is submitted in electronic format. All standard should be set up to print single piece on 8 negative 11 negative 1 up by 11 inches paper. Uh, the margin top, bottom, left, and right should be 1 inches. The standard should be repaired for 2 slide reduction. Ito po sa paper size, kailangan po yung sukat naka-single space po. Tapos yung sukat po niya ay 8 negative 1 half by 11 inches po. Tapos yung sa margin naman po is kailangan po naka 1 inch lang po yung kada top pati yung left and right po. Next is front. The standard proportion should be set to types approved by the committee. Generally, type size should be 11 inches or 12 points, depending upon the nature of the content stable. Scalable, like may be useful in special application such as figure notes, complex formulas, or setting superscript or subscript characters to suggest the types of sign, the size as reliability as title should be uniform. Dito po sa front ay may laki po ng uri na dapat nasa 11 point lang po or nasa 12 point lang po. Mayroong katangian na nilalaman ang scalable na may uri po ng paggamit gaya po ng mga figures, mga tala, mga formulas, may mga uh, complex po. Next is uh, input. Um, Tapos yung superscript o submit ay may ayos mo nilaki para po madali mabasa. Next is header. Header the ballot. Like header for the ballot should include the project number and publication, identification number plus with outside margin or hard right and even collect numbered page. Header for finite application will be have application identification number only with outside margin. Ito po sa header, dapat po may isang project number at may publication identification po na may outside margin na add or may margin po na add sa right at even naman po sa left. Next is page numbering. Page numbering should be centered at the bottom each page. Preliminary element commonly known as front matter should be numbered with the lowercase Roman numeral, while the other page should be numbered with Arabic numeral. Beginning is number 1. Dito po sa page numbering is kailangan po naka lowercase po yung Roman numeral o kaya po lahat po ng page ay dapat naka Arabic number na may letra ay may number po na 1. Next is paragraph alignment. Paragraph alignment. Uh, Alignment left or justified should be of the direction of the unity. Next is boldface and italic. Boldface and italic text style should be used only in the following sentence. Next is warning statement. If any test is procedure required by standard are believed to involve potential safety hazard, the following paragraph should be placed in the standard scope. Some of the tests or procedures specified in this standard may involve the presence of hazardous voltage and current of other potential dangers. If the personnel, some of these hazards have been identified and appropriate while have been include the text specified. This is procedure. Whatever appropriate safety precautions are always recommended in performing a laboratory test or procedure. Dito po sa warning statement po, ito po yung tumutukoy sa babala para maging ligtas ang lahat at para sa pag-iingat ng bawat isa tulad po sa mga laboratory test at sa mga construction po. Next is Annex A, formative elements of typing. Drafting of typing. Title. Meron po tayong tatlong bahagi. Una po is introductory elements. Pangalawa is main elements. Pangatlo po is complementary elements. Yun po sa una, the introductory elements. The introductory elements is necessary is without the subject indicated in the main elements that will be defined. It's the main elements together with the complementary elements of title, unit vocally covered, and the subject treated in the standard then introductory elements should be omitted. Next, ito po yung example. Meron po tayong right at meron po tayong wrong. Next is, ayun po, example number 2. Ganun din po. Next is the main of elements. The main element should be always involved. Last is the complementary elements. The complementary elements is necessary is the standard cover only one or few aspects of the subject integrated in the main elements when it's necessary to distinguish is from another standard. Doon po sa mga introductory elements po, meron pong isang termino na respeto dapat po na tiyakin na wala pong ibang iniiral na termino. Mas mainam na dapat itong tukuyin. Next is when a standard is published, a series of separate part complementary elements separately is and identify the parts. Example po, ANS, ANS AS1 TEA 991, 999-001, 2015. Ito po yung telecommunication, private branch change, and part 1 o intern fees, specification elements. Next po, yan po, ganun din po yan. Next is if the standard covers several aspects of the subject indicated in the main elements, the aspect coverage should be referred to by general terms such as specification or test method rather than be enumerated one by one. The complementary element should be omitted if the standard and after the first list items indicated in the main elements. This text is covered on state essential aspects of the subject indicated in the main elements. Next is the only standard relating to the subject. Next is ito po yung example. Hindi po, meron po tayong right and wrong. Sa iyo, yun po. Tapos yung B is try maybe Shakespeare. Tapos ganun din po sa wrong. Next is a bunch of limitation of scope. The title should not contain data that might risk applying the unintentional limitation of the scope of the standard. However, if the standard within the specific types of product is should be reflected in the title. Next is wording. Uniformity should be maintained in this terminology used in the title of standard or indicated the same concept. Ito po yung merong test method or test determination expression method or method of testing, method upon the determination, tapos word of standard. Next is Annex, Annex B, normative, graphic, and presentation of terms definition. Meron po kayong dalawang po. Yung una is general principle, pangalawa is type of standard. Terminology may text or indicated terminology standard or be included in the definition clause in standard that also change one other aspect. Makita po natin yung sa B3.1 of the layout. Next is uh, choice of concept to define. Any terms that is not yet implementary or commonly known speech differently interpreted in the different concepts should be clarified by defining the relevant concept. Common dictionary or current technical terms should be included only. Terms are used with a specific meaning in the relevant concept. Next is trade name in a partnership and colloquial terms should be included, avoided. In a independent terminology standard, the concept defined should be restricted to the corresponding to the title and scope and standard in the other standard. Standard only should be concept should be defined as are used in the standard aspect on any additional concept and the term that may depend necessary for the understanding to definition. Next is avoidance of duplication and contradiction. Before terms and definition are then established for the concept, it should be stated that no other terms to definition for the concept exist the other standard. If the concept is to use the several standard is it preferable that should be defined in the most general use standard, independent terminology standard. Next is the other standard should refer the standard without repeating the definition of the concept. The repetition of definition is necessary and informative occurrence should be made the standard on which is dependent. Next, ito po yung example. Cross concept, a group of connection point wall of craft mounted used to mechanically terminate and administer building wiring. Ito po yung mga group po ng connection point sa mga wall or racks mounted sa mga building na wirings po. If the terms is defined in one standard of introduction in another standard of the reference terms synonym for the difference concept strongly link range. Next is wrapping of definition and constant of definition. A definition should be contained unnecessary and sufficient sufficient element to enable the concept considered to be well understood and the boundaries to determine. Next is immediate purpose of definition. A definition should be identical for the intended purpose. It should be theoretically correctly expression needed in the relevant concept. Next is structure of definition. The preferred structure of definition is a basic part stating the classes of each concept below, and another part enumerating the characteristic and distinguish the concept from the other member of the class. And now is define of linear class will be the process. Ito po yung example. High-grade computer using both analog uh, representation and discrete representation of data. Yun po yung mga example niya. Next is structure of definition. It is the difficult or not applicable to structure definition in the way indicated. In enumeration, the important part of concept may draw in definition. Example po nito is the concept aircraft comprise balloon and airship, kites and air glider, and other flying machine. Ito po yung mga lumilipad po sa ipapawid. Ito po yung mga example niya. Next is structure, structure of definition. It is the difficult or not applicable to structure definition according to either of the way indicated in makita po natin sa B1.4.3 and B1.4.4 that definition will be replaced by example 5 from the explanation. Next is term in definition. The terms used in the definition should be ambiguous or should be separately defined. Next is concept in definition. Definition will be a second concept said and the second by the first defined. The concept should be avoided. Next is drawing and definition. A drawing may be used to clarify the content of the definition, but of the text of the definition should be completed in the insert without the drawing. Next is requirement of definition. A definition should be not take account or contain requirements. Next is special meaning of definition. Definition given with indication applicability may be taken as simply the general meaning of terms. Special meaning in particular context should be indicated by suitable qualification or complementary expression. Next is ito po yung example. Indicate list of content of the files or standard header key or reference locating content. Ito po yung mga example. Katulad po ng kailangan po natin maglagay ng isang reference para po malaman po natin na kung saan po galing yung pinagpunan natin na isang website. Next is example to index pics of multiple part of indicating device. Those positions with reference to the scale might enable the measurement to be determined. Next is agreement of terms, independent terminology standard. An independent terminology standard containing terms and definition Availability should be classified according to the of the concept in terms and definition of general concept shall be preferred use of less general concept. Next is presentation. The following rules apply to the presentation of the independent terminology, standard ranges, and definition, close of other standard. Next is layout. Its term defined shows the place and meaning of the line after a reference number in applicable. Next is another example. Plasticity, plasticity and density of the materials accumulate the form of the reduction of the volume stress to the below iron. Next is synonyms. Silicon should be separate synonyms. Ito po yung example. Snap ring, retaining ring, slip ring, yung diameter can be made larger and smaller from elastic deforming. Ito po yung mga ginagamitan po ng mga plastic o mga malalambot na bagay para po ma-deform po siya. Next is grammatical form of terms. Terms should be affected into terms basic grammatical forms. Next is multiple meaning. If a term is used to represent several concepts or meaning should be qualified. If this is not possible, the difference meaning may be distinguished by adding a rapid numeral and separate increase the point. Example po, ang index number simplify the sensitivity of the photographic emotion needs. Next is parenthesis and bracket. Parenthesis and closing. Parenthesis and closing are part of a flexibility that knowledge of the space between the terms be omitted if this concept is the next attention. Use no function and arrays. The parentheses indicate that the terms compound can be used along the terminology asserting the same meaning compound word. Yung alam naman po natin yung parenthesis and closing. Ito po yung nagbibigay ng palatandaan para po sa ah, pandagdag po. Next is normative verbal form. See one requirements in verbal form. The verbal form should be in table C1 are used to indicate requirements to be followed strictly in the order contained to the standard and from which no deviation detected. Ito po yung sa table yan. C1. Verbal form is mentioned of equivalent expression is to is required to it's required that has to only is required limited is necessary. Yan po yung pwede po natin magamit. Next is shall not. Is not allowed. Meron is required to be not. Required that be not. Is not is not to be. Yun po. Next is uh, suitable with verbal form. The verbal form should be shown in the table C2 are used to indicate that one of several possibilities recommended and particularly suitable without mentioning or including others but certain course of action and prepared but not necessarily required at the negative form. A certain possibility or course of action and encourage the not provided. Ito po yung sa table. Meron po tayong verbal form na short. Tapos equivalent expression is then recommended that ought to as yun din po. Meron short at meron tayong it's a recommended that tapos not ought not to. Ganun po. Last is course of action verbal form. The verbal form should be shown in this table are used to indicate course action when simple even limit the standard. Ito po yung sa table. Yan. Meron po tayong may, tapos yung sa equivalent expression is limited, is allowed, is principle. Next is needed not. This is not required that but no is required. Next one. Thank you for listening.